Hey Anna, Tommy here. Thanks for your work in week 5. I just want to send you a video reply, especially about this really big question I think that you're sitting with in Forum 2 about how we relate teaching in Matthew and elsewhere in the Bible about hope for the future to our present sufferings and the present sufferings of the societies that we're a part of and the places that have shaped us. Um, Obviously, I think it's a huge problem that Christian teaching has introduced a kind of dichotomy between the present and the future, so that we have to sort of endure all kinds of suffering in the present because it's going to be better one day when we die or when Jesus comes back. And I think that that's not true to Matthew or the rest of the New Testament or the Old Testament, but I also think that it really disempowers people. It teaches us that we don't have power available to us today to address the sufferings that we experience or that our places exhibit, but that we have to wait for God to swoop down and fix things, or we have to wait to die. And so, for those two reasons, I think we should reject that as a false hope. And then the question becomes, okay, how are we to conceive of a hope that is future to us, but not separated from us by some decisive event like our deaths or some kind of mythological return of Jesus? And I think that we have to recognize that the seeds of our redemption, power to bring healing, to bring justice to our lives, our communities' lives, is present today. And it's not only like suddenly present today, it's been planted before we were born. It was present in the soil that has nurtured us socially and otherwise. And it is still in need of cultivation. It needs to be tended and it needs to grow. There's no way to say, that we have to wait a certain amount of time or until some decisive event on the future horizon for that hope to really take hold and to produce meaningful, lasting bodily change. I think we should refuse any kind of eschatology like that and insist that the eschatological has already dawned, and to concentrate our imagination, our effort, our memory on naming and cultivating the seeds of our redemption, the power that is present to us now, and to be working together on how to cultivate it. So that's kind of broadly how I want to think about our future hope. It is, of course, true that we expect an ultimate resurrection of the dead and a sort of healing of the rest of creation with that. But I think the tendency of the Christian imagination to cast that hope in such ultimate terms that are divorced from resurrection power in the present, from power that heals creation in the present, is a mistake. Um, Perhaps one of the missteps that we've inherited is the tendency to treat biblical teaching that talks about, the way God brings about what we hope for as meaning that we're not involved, that we just have to wait for it to happen one day. I think instead, what the Bible is teaching us is that we are always invested in something that is greater than ourselves, than that is um, more than we can imagine. We don't ever want to reduce what we are pursuing to terms that we neatly control or that we can engineer. The stuff of hope is, I think, a certain kind of humility and ability to invest in things, even if we don't have guarantees that they will produce results in this amount of time in this particular way. So it's important to see that that kind of teaching in the Bible that is responsive to God's power, uh, telling us that there is a kind of abruptness to the transformation that we expect, that this is not about um, making us wait sort of indefinitely. It's about not overestimating kind of arrogantly what we do of our own imagination, but instead feeding our imagination and our life with all kinds of things that we know we don't control. And yet, not for that reason are they unavailable to us. So that's kind of the tension, I guess, that I want us to cultivate. I really worry about the already not yet kind of imaginary generally. It might sound that I'm basically feeding that, and maybe at one level I am. But the reason I don't like it is that I find that it's sort of like when people say that peace in the Middle East is complex or that certain problems are just really difficult. It just becomes a way of excusing the present and maintaining the status quo. So, already not yet might be something we say at the beginning of a conversation, but then we have to go on to specify, and what is it that is already? And how is it that what we're hoping for is not yet? Rather than allowing those to be vague and have the effect of justifying the status quo and prolonging it indefinitely and just giving us another version of we have to wait for Jesus to come back or to die for things to be decisively better. So thanks again for your responses. And I couldn't agree more with what you say in the end that your generation, our time, we need an eschatological hope. We need an eschatology, I would say, that is a description of the present. Even if it is a present that is pregnant with a future, it must be a description of the present on the earth. Thanks again.